people that trusted us and were loyal to us that kept coming back. And Colleen looked at us and she goes, there's your secret recipe. She goes, you take care of them and they will continue to take care of you. And we were like, okay, that makes sense. So we still went ahead and did a little bit of a marketing campaign. We sized it way down and decided to spend those marketing dollars on things we love, like taking those people out to coffee and lunch and visiting with them. And it's their wedding, sending them a nice gift instead of sending 250 glossy mailers to people we don't know and may never meet. So that was sort of the beginning of how we decided to map out the way that we do business.
Good afternoon, Tim and Amy.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Good.
We're good. Doing well.
How are you?
I'm great. I wish we were doing this in person because I miss you guys. Every time I see you on Zoom, it just makes me more depressed.
Next time.
Yeah, next time we'll do it, or we'll just hang out. Maybe we won't have to shoot a podcast, but I'm very excited you guys came on here with me today. And just to kick us off, I would love if you could introduce yourselves and give us a little background on your business.
Sounds good. Yeah. I'm Amy Butterworth.
And I'm Tim Deihl.
And we've both been in the business for almost 20 years now. We mostly focus on residential real estate. We've been together as a team for over a decade.
Yeah. So Tim and Amy have been, I feel like, with us forever, it feels like to me. But I don't know, how many years have you been with Gibson Sotheby's?
It's probably 10 or 11 by now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe even more. Right around.
I'd say more than that because it was probably 2010 or so.
Yeah, it's about 15 because
and that's 15 years ago now. Yeah. That's not okay.
I know. I know, that's insane. That's about the same tenure I've had, like full time at the company. So we started together.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved, so we got on and sort of talked about just how you guys do business. And what I thought was so interesting was that the reason that I feel like so connected to you guys is I feel like because the way that you do your business and the way that you kind of put yourselves out there. So I wanted to take an opportunity to just chat with you about how you've done that, because this time of year, so many people are planning, which they should be. But I liked our conversation was less about like the structure of your planning and having to do such specific things and more kind of just like look like, I don't know, it sounds a little cheesy, but like looking internally in terms of like what works for you, what can you actually sustain? And you guys have done that now for 20 years and the business has been incredible to watch. So can you give me a little idea of sort of how you came to that? Did you start off like that? Did you learn how to get there? What does that look like for you?
We have. It's been a fun journey. And I think we both agree with you in the fact that we love working with this group because of that shared mindset. And talking about the length of time that we've been with Gibson Sotheby's, it takes me back to one of our first strategic planning meetings. We were sitting in Savin Hill
office,
and we were meeting with Colleen Berry, and we were looking at our numbers from the year. I mean, it was probably right around this time of year, but this is 15 years ago or so. And we had all these ideas. We'd been listening to successful top agents and watching what the trends and all this. And we said, we're going to do mailers and we're going to hit them with all the best glossy marketing and show them all the photos of the beautiful homes, and we're going to get their attention that way. And so we mapped out a plan and all this stuff. And we sat down with Colleen and we were thinking, we're feeling pretty good about it. And she says, oh, okay, yeah, this is good. Like, so have you done this before? I'm like, well, a little bit, yeah. And she's like, okay, that's great. Well, you guys are building success. If we look at you for the last few years, like you've been growing, what else have you been doing already that seems to be working? And we were like, yeah, something must be working because we're doing pretty well and we're growing. And
because people always think they need to do something different, something more.
We need to do more. There's people that are doing other things. And if we're going to keep up, we got to do all the things. And she says, what have you been doing that's been working? And we kind of thought back and we looked at who was involved in the transactions, who the clients were, where they came from. And so much of it was building off of this sphere that had grown with us as we were growing. And so people that had gotten really comfortable and enjoyed working with us, who then sent us to their friends or family or neighbors. And that started to kind of grow organically. They weren't necessarily getting our random mailers or those sort of touches through newspaper advertisements or anything like that. It was people that trusted us and were loyal to us that kept coming back. And Colleen looked at us and she goes, "There's your secret recipe." She goes, "You take care of them and they will continue to take care of you." And we were like, okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. So we still went ahead and did a little bit of a marketing campaign. We sized it way down and decided to spend those marketing dollars on things we love, like taking those people out to coffee and lunch and visiting with them. And, it's their wedding, sending them a nice gift instead of sending 250 glossy mailers to people we don't know and may never meet. So that was sort of the beginning of how we decided to map out the way that we do business.
This business is so funny because it's so personal in the transactions, typically like a residential transaction, like you're really getting to know people. And I feel like both of you are like really easy to connect with and like genuine. And I think that from a company standpoint, we always say like companies, brokerages try to emulate what we're doing, but they can't because it's just like hard to put your finger on because it's just like we're just real and we connect. And you're not going to connect with everyone, but like when you can find the people you can connect with, and those deep connections are what actually takes you somewhere. And I think I'm curious to know what you think, but I think it probably helps your business that you work together as spouses, because it just immediately takes this layer, like facade away, because your spouse knows who you are. Like you can't pretend you're somebody else and like have this like fake thing going with a client. Like you're just kind of like, here we are. I don't know. Do you find it's challenging or?
I don't. I mean, I think we leave those listing appointments, we leave new client appointments, and we're always kind of like, they were so nice. That was fun. It's kind of it's just nice to be out together in a space. We've said for a long time that we work a lot, and if we didn't work together, we wouldn't ever see each other. Nice to be able to spend that time with each other, even in that workspace. So it's been a good thing. It's worked really well for us. We go into presentations too, and I can't tell you how many times couples are like, "Oh, you guys work together?" And they're in the same room with their spouse. They're like, "We could never do that."
Yeah.
And I feel like it just like gets like that conversation going too. Like everyone just like lets down that shell and opens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're like, oh, I'm, this is my spouse, or this is my sister, this is my dad, like, and you're in a business conversation, there's just immediately a level of like ease, I feel, because you feel so easy together. So everyone just sort of, I think, can take a breath and connect. It makes it, I guess what I'm saying is I think it probably supplements your plan and your style well that you have that.
I never actually thought of it like that, but let's say you don't work with your spouse, to introduce your spouse to whoever you're doing business with is a pretty intimate next step. So like we kind of cut through all that and you can see a little bit of the authentic relationship between us. I think it lets our own guards down a little bit.
Yeah.
We trust each other so much. So it gives us an extra sort of layer of what we can give to our clients.
For sure. So if you're maybe not working with your spouse, no, I'm just kidding. But if you're an agent listening to this and you're just getting into the business and you have been overthinking, I said it today, we built our leadership team around truly having people that can help you make a plan, right? Colleen, that's like her service is her thing. And she loves that coaching element. And we have Daphne and we have Jenny and we have people that want to make plans, and you should make plans. But if you're someone that's really caught up in that plan right now and you're like, this sounds good, right? I want to figure this out. What's your tip for them? What are you telling them to kind of start with?
I'd say be active, right? Like that doesn't mean like go for a run. It means put yourself out there, engage in your community. We've done a lot of that naturally because that's just kind of who we are. I think we both come from families and backgrounds that have taught us about volunteering, being active in your community, an active participant with your neighbors, not just kind of like pull the blinds at home, but invite people in. So I think we'd recommend putting yourself out there, volunteering, finding organizations that you're drawn to, meet new people. And that doesn't mean meet new people and shake their hand and say, I'm a real estate agent. It just means like meet new
Connect.
people and make new connections, and make new relationships. And, eventually maybe that comes into the conversation, that's what you do. And maybe there's an opportunity for you to help. But if that's your motivating factor, you're not establishing, that genuine connection. So just be active, get out there and meet new people.
And just to roll off of that, we were listening to the podcast you did recently with Daphna about the 10 traits of successful agents, which is a great one. But you guys made the point, like, you don't have to be this like superstar. It's like in everybody's face, I'm not shy, total extrovert. Actually, you guys might be surprised to know, like, I don't know that we rank at the top of the extrovert scale at all, but it's not about just like putting yourself out there just to be out there. It's about doing more of what you love and making those real connections. So maybe what you love is like knitting and being quiet, and you go and you're in a knitting club, but you make a little bit of an effort to get to know the people in a different way. And that doesn't mean like passing them your real estate card, but listening. Are they talking about things with their home projects they're working on? Just doing more and putting yourself out there, doing more of what you love and making those real genuine connections and building off of that.
Yeah. No, I love those points. And I think they're such good tips. And it's like, again, it sounds a little silly, but it's like, you're going to feel it when like we operate kind of similarly. Like I just like shooting this podcast with you guys because I feel a genuine connection to you. Like, and that sometimes takes a little bit of time, but you're going to feel that little bit. And maybe you won't know it when you feel it, but then the next time you go do something and it feels like a force, not everybody has to be your cup of tea, but realizing, and COVID sort of took that away from us, I think, a bit. Especially like for someone like me, like I had small kids, it's like, oh, it'd be nice to like work from home and whatever. But it's like, you don't realize till you get back out there and those real connections and feeling like you're bringing value to people and you've genuinely connected with them. They're filling you up, you're filling them up, just kind of focusing on that. And it might sound like, well, how do I make sure I'm doing that? But to your point, it's like a slow roll, figuring out what you like and getting out there. I like those tips to just let it happen. And like you said, that you don't have to be extroverted. I actually think you and the first conversation I remember really having with you, Amy, was at, I think, the holiday party. And I just remember like we had talked a couple times, but like, I'm not as much of an extrovert. Like I don't fill up by like moving around the room and having 100 conversations. I like a couple good ones. And that's like one of the times we really connected, is just kind of to sit. And it's like, if I went home that night, it's like, great, I have one person, that I feel a little bit closer to than I did when I walked in, and that's perfect, whether that's from a personal or professional standpoint.
I think that's so important to remember as people are considering putting themselves out there as an agent. Like, quantity does get you somewhere, but really those quality interpersonal connections, like that list that we looked at with Colleen 15 years ago, it wasn't 100 pages long. It started, pretty small and concise, but the more that we built off that list, the list has grown for people that have been loyal and given us multiple, if not dozens of referrals over the years. And it was that quality from the beginning that we really have always tried to emphasize.
Would you rather have like 10 transactions with clients, people who you don't have a relationship with, who will not refer you business in the future, will not maintain an active, healthy relationship with? Or would you rather have, one good, friend who you happen to also do real estate with, help them in their search, help them with their needs, who in turn ultimately sends you 5 every year, right? For who knows how long. Like, and again, it's not the point of the relationship, it's the result of the relationship.
Yeah. And to that point, you guys must do a lot of referrals, I feel like, if this is what your business is built off of.
Yeah, both ways, really, in and out, because I think what we've built is like a foundation of just trust and friendship with a lot of our clients. And so even if they're moving out of an area, their touch point is with us first, to figure out, what they should do and who they can connect with that will guide them the right way.
Yeah, we're not from around here. You know, I'm from Maine, she's from Western New York. So we don't have like that established network. We didn't
Our
grow up in the
family
city and
yeah.
have, just an endless amount of connections. So we've had to build the network here locally, but from a referral standpoint too, it's interesting. We have relationships elsewhere. So we get calls from Western New York and from the Portland area all the time from friends and family who are like, I have a real estate thing I want to bounce off you. And that conversation ends up in a referral in their neighborhood too, like finding them an agent where we're from, but haven't lived for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you're just like inherently connectors. I think you kind of establish that through the connection piece. So in terms of real estate's a cyclical business, I actually feel like this might be the shortest winter ever just because of the election in terms of the market. I think it's going to be an early spring market, but it is a little bit quiet right now. So how do you stay busy? How do you sort of like keep this funnel filled when things get quiet?
It goes back to that active conversation, right? You just engage more, you have more free time. So there are two things, right? Like the first I think we've talked about is
Embracing that time.
embracing it and using it.
Some of the quiet time is good and needed.
Yeah, it's I mean it's a benefit of our business, right? You get some of that downtime with your family and it's a nice kind of safe space.
Yeah, and a balance.
Yeah, but also just engaging in those active those active activities, those active opportunities. Just reconnecting with people through different ways.
I love that. I want to underscore that big time here. And I didn't know you were going to say that, but it's so true. Like, it's so hard when you work at the clip that we all really work to like embrace a slow time. So maybe that's another thing. Like, this whole podcast was supposed to be about sort of like, how do you do what you're doing, right? Because it's less quantifiable, but that's such a nice piece of advice to give to someone that's sort of taking their notes right now. Just if it is quiet, don't always fight that. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just take a second to yourself. Like, if you're quiet right now, it's going to pick up. And you don't have to do 100 mailers and be filling your days 9 to 5. Like, maybe take a breath. They always joke like book a vacation and, business will come.
So true. I don't know why that's so true.
It is.
One other thing I'll add is that I think as you sort of remain active as far as just engaging with new people or old people or whatever, the importance of like not always leading with real estate, even though that path can eventually take you there in the relationship. Just one example that comes to mind, Tim and I went to a dinner party a few weeks ago and people were talking and chatting and there were some mutual friends there, but a lot of people we didn't know. And one of the women was very clearly trying to be like, they're brokers and I know you're looking for a home, and like trying to matchmake for us. And it was okay. Like, we talked for a minute or two, asked a few questions, but I could tell that it didn't feel like the right time. Maybe the person wasn't ready or the setting wasn't the right place. So we talked about a lot of other things and we had some great laughs and we left and we stayed sort of connected. And the woman who is looking to buy and sell and all this stuff ended up texting and just saying, hey, you want to meet for coffee? I'm in this great group. And it's nothing about real estate, really, not even yet. And it's okay if it never even turns to that. But I really think the awareness of when to approach that conversation is a very important piece of the whole establishing the connection and the trust, and letting it sort of flow naturally.
That's just like what you have is longevity, because you do trust your process, because you do feel connected, because you know that the sphere that you have it runs deep. And so you don't have that scarcity mindset of like, I need to like make everybody I meet turn into an immediate deal. It's like, I'm playing the long game. That's probably why, you've come and you guys are seasoned, right? I'm sure there was a time that you were like, we have to always make things happen, but also like can embrace a slow time or whatever it is, because you have these really deep connections. And I think that's what I want to make sure we leave with everyone. And that's what always makes me think, when I think about the way you run your business, and what I love the most is that it's just genuine connections. It's very effortless. And I think that that's what most people probably strive for, because you don't want to feel like you're always just trying to get these surface level connections with this very specific business plan. So I love that. Is there anything else you want to leave with people that are listening to this? It might be newer. We're trying to.
Anything in your notes?
I think that, you've mentioned a few times like that it comes natural to us and like we are these sort of connectors. And I do think some of that is sort of inherent in people, but I also think that it can really be fostered. And you can learn how to listen to those like gentle nudges that are coming from within you to just connect and not feel like you have to push the stats or whatever. I mean, there was definitely a time where we focused so heavily, like in the beginning, on trying to get all the data down and present the information. Like we joke all the time about one of our first listing presentations together. We had everything that you could want to know, like ask us a question about the house next door. We left there and we looked at each other and was like, we nailed it. Did we nail it? Was it good? And it was like, well, we got everything done. And then I was like, we didn't really know a lot.
Do we know anything about her?
Yeah, did we let her talk at all? Like we were so ready to present that we forgot to connect and we didn't like listen enough. We didn't ask enough questions. And like neither of us will ever forget that. It was such a learning point for us. And it wasn't like the next presentation we went in and like we're flawless. This was years ago and it took a lot of practice and skill and it took some failures. And we've grown it over time. So I think you can start from anywhere, really.
I'd say that's pretty normal. But I love that example because it is sometimes we're overthinking things and you just have to like take a breath and
Right.
know what people are all about. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. Like I said, I miss seeing you in person, so this will have to spark that for us. But I really appreciate you coming on here. I think so many people look up to the way that you do business and value you guys as friends. And I hope anyone listening that don't know you guys and would like to get to know you will feel free to reach out to me directly and I can put you in touch.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we look forward. We like connecting.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great day.